Hey, what's going on, everyone? Good to see you. Thanks for checking in. Uh, as some of you know by now, if you follow me on Twitter or you've been keeping up with me at all outside of YouTube, I got COVID. But a lot of you probably don't know that, and that's kind of why I'm making this video. So the title's not clickbait. I'm not pulling your leg or anything like that. I wish I was. I wish I was witty enough to come up with the title like "I got COVID" and then joke about it. Wouldn't that be neat? But I wanted to make a video because a lot of people are kind of like freaking out and worrying and being very scared on my behalf, which I guess thank you for the concern. But so far, everything's been going probably as good as they can be, which is a weird sentence to say in regards to this. But so far, my symptoms have been super mild. I started like showing symptoms about 2 days ago before I went to bed, and I was kind of feverish, and I started to get my joints were super achy, my like spine was sore, my elbows and my shoulders and everything were kind of achy, like kind of how you would get before you get in a flu. And then I was like shivering in bed, and then we got our test results because okay, I should backtrack. We were supposed to fly out yesterday, and then the day before I started showing symptoms. But we had to get tested anyway before we flew back to England because you're supposed to test before you travel. Well, I thought that, and then it turns out that not many places domestically are testing before you travel. I think you should get tested before you travel anyway. We were going to do it regardless of if it was a rule or not, just to be safe. But we had to get tested before we flew out here, and we were negative. And then the day we arrived, we also got tested, and that came back negative as well. But before we were flying home, I was getting tested as well. And then I started to feel symptoms that night. And right before bedtime, well, we were waiting up for the results anyway, just to make sure because it didn't feel right. And then my result came back positive. Thank God Evelyn's test came back negative. She's been negative the entire week. And then she tested negative. And then as soon as we found out that I had it, we split into separate rooms. She went into a different room than me in the hotel, stayed the night there. Then she went and got tested the next morning, like a rapid test that came back really quickly. Still said she was negative. So she got to fly home because there's no point in her being stuck here as well. And everything was paid for already. So thank God she was negative and she got to go home. Plus, her staying around me, probably a bigger chance of getting it. So it was the safer thing to do. But yeah, I don't know how I got it. I don't know where. I don't know from who. I don't think that is too important right now. I could be pointing fingers all day, every day, and still not know because some people could just have no symptoms. And if you don't have any symptoms, it's not like you're going to get tested regularly anyway. So they might have just been carrying it and gave it to me. I'm shocked that I didn't give it to Evelyn somehow. But she's going to get tested when she's back in England as well anyway, just to be safe. But yeah, we've been really, really careful about COVID, like all the time back in England. We only go out when we need to. We sanitize constantly. Like every time we're out, if we go to the shop or something, we sanitize like 20 times. And we like make sure that anytime we touch bags for deliveries, we sanitize after that, after like throwing them out. Just really careful about it and always wearing our masks everywhere, even though it's not required all the time. And then same thing here. We tested before we went negative. We tested when we got here. We had to test for the Game Awards anyway. But we were going to test regardless from traveling just to make sure. Because if we traveled and then got it somehow in the airport or a plane, then we would just isolate here the entire time. But that came back negative as well. After the Game Awards, I tested again, so that Evelyn, because we needed to make sure that was safe. Then we tested the day of Thankmas that morning for everyone in the studio that came in to be part of it. Every single person on staff, every person that wasn't on camera was wearing a mask every time they weren't on that stage. So I was even wearing a mask every time I went to the bathroom and like walked off stage. So we were being really careful about it there. And then after Thankmas was done, we tested twice more. We went to a test center close by, and then we didn't really like how that test center kind of went about it. So we were like, okay, let's go somewhere else to test, just to make sure that one wasn't like because it just felt like the test didn't go well, or they didn't swab enough or something like that. And just to make sure, we went to a different place that we tested at before that were really, really, really good at it. And both tests came back negative. So the entire time during the trip, as far back as like Monday, we didn't have it. And then a few days went by and we had to test for the flight home. And then that one came back positive for me. So there's like I don't really know how it all works. And when you can test positive and how far into it you have to be for it to actually show up. But we were being as careful as we could be, and it still happened. So now I actually feel, I probably don't sound the best, but I actually feel way better than I did yesterday and the day before. Yesterday I was like feverish all day, lying in bed all day, covered in blankets, sweating it out. I was taking my temperature all the time. I had a pretty high fever. I have like a pulse oximeter here, which is like a thing you put on your finger that you've probably seen in hospitals before, or like movies or something, that tests your blood oxygen levels and your pulse, which is just good to get your vitals anyway. And especially me, who has asthma, I was always kind of worried about if I ever got COVID, if asthma would affect it a lot more. And I know that's what a lot of people are kind of freaking out about now. But so far it's been fine. The asthma factor hasn't been like huge for me. And my blood oxygen has been like 97, 98% the whole time. So that's good. It means that enough oxygen is in my blood that it's pumping around. Apparently, if it drops below 95, you have to monitor it. And then if it drops below 92, you're supposed to get supplemental oxygen. So anywhere below like 95 is like, okay, pay attention to this because it might get scary. But mine has been fine so far. And today, my fever is gone, surprisingly. So 2 days in and my fever broke. Like today, my body temperature has been completely back to normal, all the way back down to like regular body temperature. So I don't know if that's like Tylenol bringing the fever down and just making me feel better. But hopefully the worst is behind me. I think it is. Today, all I really have is like a bad cough, which is still kind of concerning, but I don't think things are going to get much worse from here on out. At least I hope not. I'm just glad that I feel okay. And I'm glad that everyone that I've interacted with so far has tested negative. Everybody that I've interacted with have taken tests, and I talked to them about it, and they've all tested negative so far. So maybe I just have a bad system. Maybe I just have a bad immune system that's not as bulletproof as everybody else's, but it is what it is. All I have to do now is kind of like sit here and write it out. That's another thing as well. Now I have to stay in LA longer and wait and kind of quarantine in this hotel room for the next few days. And just I have like at-home tests that I can keep testing with just to see if it comes out negative, and then I can get a proper PCR test whenever it does. And then if that comes back negative, then I get the all clear. But I could be here for like 10 days, maybe, just to be safe. I'm not taking any risks with it, and I'm not leaving the room. And the hotel staff are so nice. They keep coming by and being like, yeah, your order's here. And they just kind of like leave it at the door and then go away. So I don't have to like interact with anybody or risk anybody else. Also have my inhalers, which are a godsend during something like this, to just kind of like keep the breath going. I even have like a spacer. If any of you have asthma and you use one of these, you know what it is. You like put the inhaler back here and then you like this. Because if you spray an inhaler into your mouth, it can like hit your cheeks or your throat or something, and then all the powder doesn't go into your lungs. So this enables it to like go into a chamber first and then you breathe it in. But it has like a reed in it, so that if you block this off, it's to like pace your breath. Hold on, I'll show you. So if you put the inhaler in and then you go, it's to stop you from breathing too fast. It's to like pace you so you get the inhaler into your lungs better. But if you breathe really fast into it, it does that to like warn you. You know how if you have an electric toothbrush and you press too hard, it's like, hey, stop pressing too hard. But I figured out today that I could just go, what? Like that. So every time I FaceTime Evelyn now, it's like an a cappella group just going, hello, my Coney Island baby. I'm bored. I have nothing else to do in here. I'm going to start watching some TV shows. I've been watching Killing Eve, which I've always heard great things about. And Jodie Comer was in Free Guy with your boy. So I thought it was cool and I wanted to watch that. But other than that, nothing going on. Just checking in. How are you guys doing? I hope you're well. I hope that you're staying safe. And I would also like to point out at this point in time that yes, I'm vaccinated. I got both doses of Pfizer back in England. It wasn't scheduled for our booster yet, but apparently they brought that forward so we can get it in January. But we were supposed to wait 6 months for that. So I think because I'm vaccinated and because I have 2 doses of a vaccine in me, I think that's why my symptoms are so mild. So it's absolutely, you should just get vaccinated for COVID. I don't really care what anybody thinks about COVID, about vaccines at all. Just get your fucking COVID vaccine, please. For the love of God. For the love of yourself. I don't even need to bring God into this. I also have some videos that were recorded before I went. I think I have like 2 more that I might just upload over the next few days, just so you guys have something to watch so I'm not gone completely. But in the meantime, I won't be uploading, obviously. Got real good at TikTok, though. Been bouncing around on there because there's nothing else to do, and all I've been doing is watching TikTok over the last 2 days. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. I don't want anyone to worry. I don't want anyone to freak out. The only thing that's worth freaking out about right now is the fact that I can't go home and watch the new Spider-Man movie. That honestly is like bumming me out, that I've waited so long to watch this movie and then interview Tom and Zendaya. And I didn't even get to watch the movie before that. Normally you do. You get to watch the movie the day before you interview them so you have enough stuff to ask questions about. But they were like, we only have 38 minutes of the movie done. The VFX are still being worked on, so we can show you the first 38 minutes. And then everything after that, you're just going to have to wing the interview. So I've only seen 38 minutes of it. It sucks. Also being sick, that really, really sucks. But I get through difficult things by using humor. And that's what I'm going to do this entire time, is probably make a lot of jokes at my own expense just to feel normal and get through it. So, see you later.